Good morning. It is September 2nd of 23 and it's Labor Day weekend. Today me and the little lady are just headed out to a place called Sandon. We're going to see if we can see the backup generator started up at the Sandon power plant, and I just can't remember the name of that plant right now, but has something to do with the Tesla, Nicola Tesla, if you can believe it. We'll get back to you in a bit. We got to the old ghost town of Sandon BC, and there's several points of interest as you walk around the grounds here. There's several old pieces of equipment, but one of the largest and most prominent is this old locomotive. This is a CPR locomotive number 6947, and that was the last number it was given to it in 1928 when they converted it to a heavy switcher locomotive with a designation of 080, or not a designation but a configuration. It's certainly a ways away from the initial configuration when it was built in what year was it? It was 1908. So it's a fairly old machine, and it has spent some time in its working history in Sandon, and then was shipped out to Bean Fate, Saskatchewan, apparently, and hauled a lot of coal out there for the electrical coal generating plant in Saskatchewan, or electrical generating plant in Saskatchewan, which was fired by coal. And then once it was retired, it was acquired by the Historical Society up here in Sandon, and hauled back in and set up on tracks, of which they're eventually wanting to restore it to its operating glory, but that looks like a long time in the making. But anyway, this locomotive was brought here in 1997, which is 100 years after the water-driven power plant was built and assembled here in Sandon to feed the milling, mining operations up here and supply the town with power. And interestingly enough, that generating plant was built or serviced and supplied by Nicola Tesla way back in 1897. So the Tesla Corporation has a lot of history throughout time. Walking our way up to the generating station, there's several pieces on display of the old equipment, what they had to use back in the day to make things work around there. This is an old dray wagon. We finally made it up to the building itself here. This is the outside of the original generating station, so we're about to walk in and check it out. Moving past the entryway, we come face to face with the original Nicola Tesla DC generator. You can see it's active right there, producing power. Powered by the water wheel way at the wall there. Other equipment there on the side of it. Moving past the generator, I'll pan over. This is the original panel, which is just active in the way that the needles go back and forth, but it's actually the machine, the generator is operated by that modern panel right there. There's the room where the Lister Blackstone diesel is mounted. We'll be to that in a minute here. We arrived a little bit too late to be able to access the small room there where the backup diesel is located. It's a Lister Blackstone diesel, fired up once a year during the long weekend in September, and it's a little bit of a process, but Hal Wright, the man in the center of the shot there, he's explaining how all this here comes together. Hal is explaining how that he has to reach a certain oil pressure on that gauge there, and to do so, there's a boy over to the left there. He's hand pumping it before they initiate the start of this engine. Here Hal has moved back to the flywheel end of the engine. He's got that bar turning the flywheel over. He's going to turn the engine over until he reaches, I believe it's top dead center of number 1 cylinder, and he will stop barring it at that time. It's a bar system similar to the old Caterpillar heavy diesel or gas engines, the old 60s, etc. You just put the bar in, turn the wheel, and if it flips forward there, it disengages out of the flywheel. But there he's got it set, ready to come forward, and he's going to open up the air valve that blasts the cylinder full of air, and we'll push it around and the engine will start. Apparently he's going to do a little bit more of a demonstration on pulling the flywheel around there, but just a safety thing. Now he's got that set. Hal's moving out to the front of the engine again, and he's indicating that he's got adequate oil pressure on the gauge. It's hard to see, got the heads in the way, but anyways, he's got good air pressure or oil pressure on the gauge for the journalist. He's moving over to the control valve of the air, and he's going to load the system up. And the gentleman at the back, he's been instructed to insert the bar in there and give it one flip of the, and there we go, there the engine is running.
Oh, it's on it. It'll run at about 100 RPM.
I don't know if you could hear that, but Hal was saying that the diesel is actually running right now at about 100 RPM. So anyway, that's the start of the Lister Blackstone.
In behind me here is the red building that houses the generating station that was brought in by Nicola Tesla back in 1897. It still functions, it still generates power today with the water wheel, and supplies, save a town of the size of New Denver down there with power. Still to this day, so it's old faithful in that regard. But we were just in the building where Hal, the curator, he started up the, I believe it's Lister Blackstone. I was corrected by my producer. It's the Blackstone support unit with the 4-cylinder diesel. I got to try to get it as much clip as I could. There's a big crowd, small building, and no microphones and no broadcast of any sort, so it was kind of like poor all around in that regard, but we got her.
Throughout the grounds there's a lot of these old Caterpillars and old mining equipment and old historical equipment. The road grader here, for example, that we came across, and interesting to note here, I didn't realize that Kenworth had actually made a Canadian edition. There's 2 old Kenworths sitting here, Canadian edition. Pretty interesting thing to note. On the way out of town, as we were told, we'd come across one of the original buildings in Sandon, which is called Mary Brown's, and it was one of the early brothels established in Sandon. It's currently been remodeled into a house. People are living in it actually, and in the building on the side of it there is actually one of the remaining rooms that the clients would go and have their business negotiated and completed. Pretty ironic actually, one of the first buildings to be built in a lot of these frontier towns, and one of the last ones to keep standing, the old brothel. Gotta love that. That's gonna bring an end to the little video doing the startup of the Lister Blackstone backup diesel at the Sandon powerhouse, and just to bring to light the connection to Nicola Tesla. That's quite a history all in all when you think about it. Started in 1897, generating station still running and serving the local area here. It's actually putting power back into the main BC hydro grid, but it's capable of lighting up a town the size of New Denver. which is pretty good. So I hope you like these videos. Like and subscribe if you want, and we will see you later.